Hello, and welcome back to Rising Coaches with Sophia Bernardi. Today, I'm going to talk about how the coaching industry has changed in the last few months and years and how to keep growing despite all of those changes. But first, a quick life update from me. I wanted to start by saying thank you so much to everyone that reached out to me over the last week from listening to last week's podcast episode where I shared a bit of a vulnerable episode about how I was feeling and some of the struggles that I was going through during that time and how I was navigating that. It really means a lot to me to have clients have reached out, friends reach out, and just other podcast listeners, which means so much to me. And I've been feeling so much better every single day that has gone by. It was a little bit of a blip in my business and a normal one that everyone experiences. And that was really another thing that I really appreciated was having people reach out to me, sharing what they were going through or that they really related to it. And that really just signifies exactly why I love to talk about those sorts of things because not enough people do, yet everyone experiences it. And so I wanted to normalize it so that if you go through challenges in your business, whether that's, hate messages, not that I had received that, or, payment cancellation requests or, payment failures or just stuckness in business, which is kind of what we're going to be addressing today. And, things not working like they once did or frustration or mindset blocks and things like that, that you're not alone in that and that, you're really seen and heard and I get it. And there's a path forwards. So yeah, thanks so much for all of the beautiful, lovely messages. It really meant a lot to me. And yeah, in particular from clients, it was so nice to just receive their love. So thank you so much. So yeah, I've been feeling a lot better. I'm feeling the clearest and best I've felt in a few weeks now, which is really nice. And like I said in that episode, it's really cool that, I have been able to experience the duality of both at once. I went through a really hard time in business for just a few weeks. And also I was still feeling really good most days as well. It was just, moments of heaviness or moments of stuckness or feeling a little bit defeated or frustrated or disheartened or let down. And I think it's really important that we learn how to hold that duality. It doesn't have to be all bad, and we don't want to have that expectation that it always has to be all good. Both get to coexist. So yeah, mostly on the other side of that though, which is really, really nice. We've built new systems, new mindset, normalized it, moved through it, all of the things. And now I'm starting to feel my clarity and my creativity and my spark come back, which is super, super nice. And something I'm really proud of how I've shown up over the last few weeks is how I've been so consistent with my habits and with my mindset work, no matter how, shitty I was feeling or how, unmotivated I was feeling. So I've been doing a minimum of 10,000 steps every single day the last 3 or so weeks. And I've been doing a Pilates class every single day, which I have loved. Geordie even came with me to yesterday's Pilates class, and it was so funny, guys, because it was a whole room of just girls. And in Pilates, you typically wear, weighted ankle weights, and, you have your little dumbbells, and you have like a, what is it called? Like a resistance band. And Geordie was the only man in the room, and he was the only one not wearing ankle weights or the band because he literally just couldn't do it. It was so funny. Man, he got some laughs and some love after. So the poor man can't handle Pilates, but he will get there. It was so funny and so much fun. So that's what we did yesterday. And yes, I've been doing 10,000 steps minimum every single day, and I've been doing a Pilates class every single day, and I'm obsessed. And even this morning I went for a run. I was out walking and I'm like, actually, I feel like running. And then I had this crazy thought where I'm like, oh, should I just run half a marathon? I'm a bit psycho like that. And I literally called Geordie. I'm like, should I run a half marathon this week? And I said it to my friends as well. And it's because I have run a marathon before and therefore many, many half marathons in the training for that. But it was 5 years ago, and I honestly just haven't really run consistently at all ever since. but there is just this toxic part of me that thinks I could still do it. And maybe I could, I'm not sure, but I also could probably injure myself. Who knows? But while I was out running for this, like, I don't know, 2 kilometers today, I was like, oh, I could do this. This is kind of fun. I actually don't mind this. But yeah, I ran home, but I'm going to be running to the gym instead of riding my bike today. And then I'll have to run home. So all in all, I'll probably do about 8 kilometers in total if I go ahead with that. So yeah, I'll see how I go with that. And yeah, who knows, maybe I'll get back into running, or maybe I'll, try and do a bit of a longer run, in this coming week and just see what happens. But that was just a random mood I had this morning. So yeah, I've been really proud of how I've been showing up for my health and fitness, and, eating really cleanly, but also having balance. Geordie and I go out for date nights, every Friday and Saturday, and sometimes spontaneously outside of that as well. And, it's nice to not restrict and just have fun. We shared a waffle that had Nutella and strawberries and bananas all over it. And it was just so nice. And it's so nice when you have, when you really look after yourself, like 95% of the time, to then just be able to really enjoy those moments where you don't do that as much, and just, soak that up and be really present with that. So that's been feeling really good. But then outside of the health and fitness side of it, just other little habits that I've been slowly stacking that I'm really proud of, that's been making me feel so much better, is going to bed at 8 o'clock. Like Geordie and I literally, for the most part, go to bed at 8 o'clock. And my body clock is really switched, and I just get so tired around that time. And we do a lot of things to ensure that happens, consistent bedtime routine, but we also just really turn off the lights and dim the lights and use a lot of candles or just red light in the home now. And that makes us, a lot more tired, and just eating really early, and, switching off technology and things like that is all really starting to help. Plus we do saunas and cold plunges and things like that, which, depending on when you do them and what order, can obviously calm your body down as well. So just those little habits have been making a really big difference. And I think getting good quality sleep and going to bed early and waking up early has just been so nice to kind of, just prioritize that, because by default, I'm usually more of a night owl. Like I could, in the past, stay up till midnight or later, and I just can't do that anymore. I literally, it starts to get to 6 p.m. and I'm like, wow, I'm tired, put me to bed. So that's kind of, the era I'm in, is really just focused on my health. And the most latest little tweaks, we've been doing all of that for a while now, is just trying to not be on my phone before bed and first thing in the morning. That was really what was starting to trigger my reactivity and my anxiousness in the last few weeks, was opening my phone straight away and checking my email or checking Slack or checking, social media, and just, if I got a bad message or a message I didn't love, or, a shitty situation a client's going through, it's not a good way to start my day. And whilst I did a lot of things to then, make up for that, I think if you just don't start your day with technology and with your phone, it just helps so much. That's a very recent thing that I'm adopting, and I've been really proud of myself, for the first hour of the day, just not being on my phone. And that for some might not sound like a huge deal, but it is for me, who has a habit of just straight away get a dopamine hit, because equally there can also be really great notifications, like new clients, new sales, recurring revenue, payouts, lots of love and messages and things like that. But I think it's just better to not have any of that first thing in the morning, or last thing before I go to bed. So that's a new thing I'm incorporating with Geordie's help, and it's been so good already. So yeah, that's really my life update. The other thing I'll just say is, yesterday I went and saw Lilo and Stitch with 2 of my friends, and I loved it. Couldn't convince Geordie to come with me. He's seen too many Disney movies, he reckons, with me, and fair enough. I mean, he came and saw The Little Mermaid, so can't really complain. But yeah, I saw it and I loved it. And if you like Lilo and Stitch, I highly recommend. It's pretty much an exact remake of the cartoon, original movie, but slightly better, obviously. And then with real life people. And yeah, I really liked it. I laughed a lot, also got a bit emotional, and yeah, it was really good. Now, anyways, have you ever gotten really, gone through those phases where you kind of lose creativity, or you lose your spark momentum for business? Because I just want to say, if that's you, it's so normal to go through those phases where you're what do I talk about? Like, what content should I create, and all those things. And I think, I noticed that started to go away for a brief moment, over the last few weeks, where I felt maybe a little bit more stress or anxiety than usual. But it's been so nice to prioritize my health and well-being, and put these systems and boundaries and strategies in place, and things like that. And to now have moved through some of those challenges, I'm noticing my creativity is coming back. And so the other day, I created 14 new modules for my clients, really in-depth modules, walking through real tangible examples of client strategies or offers and things that work well for them and also for myself, and putting that in my course. And my clients have loved that. I've been building a new and improved strategy for my business, and I'm sharing lots of these changes in the moment with my clients, so that they're staying on the same page, and knowing what changes are going to be working and what's not. And that's something I want to talk about briefly with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. So if you felt like business has been a little weird lately, like your content just isn't hitting the same as it once was, or your engagement is down, your last launch didn't pop the way you expected it to, or you're just stuck in this weird in-between where you're doing all of the things but not getting the traction or the sign-ups that you're wanting, you're not imagining it. And it's not just you. You're not alone with this. So today I want to talk about the big shifts that I'm seeing in the coaching industry right now. What used to work but doesn't anymore, the real reason so many coaches are stuck, and most importantly, what is working to grow sustainably and simply in 2025 and beyond. This isn't about fear mongering or chasing trends, by the way. It's about evolving with the market so that you can stay in momentum and continue to grow regardless of what is happening around the globe or online. Even when it feels like things are shifting really fast and it's really hard to keep up with. I totally get it. I've been there, and I'm so excited to be sharing this episode with you. Because if you stop, and if you don't stay up with the trends and you don't evolve, that's how you fall behind, or worse, go out of business, which leaves you to give up on your dreams. And we don't want that. I know that that's not what you want. You've likely poured in, several months or even many, many years into your business. And just because things are changing and it's feeling really hard right now, or it hasn't worked for a long time right now, that's not a reason to give up. I'm seeing a lot of people go out of business, people that I've followed for years, people that I've looked up to for years, quitting and calling it quits. And I just refuse to believe that has to be the solution. There is another way, because equally, what you focus on grows. And yes, there's a lot of people giving up and quitting right now, and they're saying it's for, XYZ reason that isn't necessarily, a reason to do with the changes. But I know that that's a contributing factor, is that, people just don't want to evolve. They don't want to put in that effort. And, if that's you, then yeah, business just isn't for you. But if you want to be in business and you want to have freedom and you want to earn more money than you can possibly imagine, and you don't want to have to get up and go to a shitty 9 to 5 that you don't love, then I want you to know that you don't have to, just believe that the only way is to simply give up and call it quits, because that is just, it doesn't have to be that way if you're willing to evolve and continuously learn and invest in yourself to do so. Then you can keep going. That's what I'm doing, and that's what all the successful people that are still thriving during this season and, aren't falling behind are doing. And so if you want to be like them, then you've got to do what they're doing. So let's dive in. What's no longer working and why? That's what I want to start with. Because what used to work a few years ago or even a few months ago just isn't working the same anymore. And I think a lot of coaches are still trying to scale using outdated strategies that the market has just honestly outgrown. And I'm not sitting here saying that everything no longer works, because there's absolutely some things that I've been doing now for 5+ years and still working just as well. But there are absolutely some things that I have been doing for 5 years that are no longer working the same. Or even I've noticed a shift just in the last few months alone. And so this is, we need to make some changes here instead of just settling and complaining, right? So here's what I'm personally seeing is no longer working more often than not at the rate that it used to. So the first is surface level content. Your 3 tips to sign a client, 3 ways to grow confidence, 3 ways to lose weight, just isn't cutting through the noise anymore. Your audience is craving depth and discernment. They want to feel like you truly see them, not like ChatGPT whipped up that piece of content. And by the way, I love ChatGPT and I love AI. I'm not saying don't use it or I'm against it. I'm just saying if your content feels like it came from that, people don't trust that anymore. They're not as interested because they can just ask ChatGPT, those questions themselves, right? They need deeper content that's speaking into much more specific situations and circumstances. So not just like, here's 3 ways to lose weight, but, really talking about, I used to compare myself to my friends when we would go out and they were wearing tight dresses and mini skirts and wearing, clothes that I wanted to wear, but I didn't feel confident in my body and I was carrying excess weight and felt like I couldn't wear those outfits. Like that kind of deeper, much deeper situations, not just your basic tip, but actually going deep into a very acute, specific situation, about how clothes fit and look on different people and how that might make, that person feel, kind of thing. That's kind of the angle that we want to be going down, okay? They really need that depth that leaves your audience thinking like, whoa, like, this person gets me, this person understands me. How does this person know the exact situation that I'm going through right now and exactly how I articulate it? All right, so that's the first thing that's no longer working. The second thing is one size fits all launches. If you're copying someone else's formula without understanding the true psychology of it so you can tweak the necessary things, or understanding your audience's buying psychology, knowing that we all have different target audiences, that's probably why you're launching to absolute crickets online. Even the launch strategy that I've used for years and years now, I'm having to make little tweaks to. I'm not having to completely let go of it, completely give up. It's not completely broken, right? But because I understand the full picture of what I'm doing and what I'm seeing is changing in the industry and with my target audience, I'm just tweaking the necessary and relevant parts to my launch process to get it to work, like it was before and more so, okay? And if you don't have that full understanding, and this is where, things like ChatGPT and AI aren't as helpful because, you actually need to know what to ask. You need to know what you're talking about to even get the quality information out of it. And so it's so important that you understand these things so that you can make the relevant tweaks right now to ensure that it still lands with your audience. Something else that is not working anymore is safe and broad messaging. If you're trying to still appeal to everyone, you're speaking to no one, and you would have heard this surely 5,000 times from different podcasts you've listened to, different coaches you're following, but I think it's clear by now it's so important that you're niche, and it's becoming more and more and more important as time goes on. Specificity is what converts in today's market, not general fluff of let's create a life you love, let's, love yourself on the inside and out. It goes so much deeper than that now, and we need to be way more tangible and way more clear than ever before. And this is personally something I'm working on, is how can I niche down further? How can I be even clearer? How can I be even more specific? How can I be even more tangible? This is the stuff that really matters. Something else that I've been seeing for a while that isn't working the same way is only doing live events or only doing evergreen events. Now, I'm a big fan of events and they have always worked and stood the test of time is what I'm trying to say. But there's a time and place for both. Coaches who only focus on one without a full strategy behind it as well are often missing massive opportunities, and there's huge gaps to bring in more revenue, okay? Even the way these two things are done alone is really shifting right now, okay? And so that's something I'm personally making rapid tweaks to as well to make sure it converts, because what once worked just isn't working the same way. So we really want to evolve this. And finally, what's not working right now is low commitment marketing. Posting a reel or 2 a week, maybe 3 times without any direction, launching randomly, sending emails to your list only when you're selling or when you feel like it. Just that here and there, that when I feel like it vibe just isn't enough anymore. The truth is that the market is more saturated and buyers are more intentional and there's more competition than ever before. And so if you're not posting consistently and high quality content that actually grabs attention, using all the things I said above, about being tangible, being specific, being clear, and all of these things, and being loud, you're just not going to get seen. And, you could be posting, really great content, but if you're only posting 2 or 3 times a week, but your competition is posting, 3 to 7 times a week, they're just going to get seen more. They're going to be more memorable, and your potential clients are going to go to them. Let's be honest. If you're a new coach struggling to get clients, feel lost in all of the strategies and wondering how to turn your passion into a real business, you're not alone. So many coaches stay stuck here because they don't have a clear step-by-step plan. That's where the 5K Fast Track comes in. It's my 3-month program that helps new coaches to hit their first 5K month in just 90 days with 6 simple steps. Want the details? DM me the word START on Instagram at Sophia Rose Bernardi and I will send them your way. Now, back to the episode. And so it's not about posting constantly or burning yourself out, but you can't just only post when you feel like it or here and there, or expect to do the absolute bare minimum and then expect above minimum results, okay? So your clients aren't just looking for more information. They don't want to just see you here and now and then. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for alignment. They're looking for trust so that they can lean into solving a problem and moving towards a solution that they want. So with that being said, that's what's not working anymore. So now let's talk about why so many coaches, and maybe this is you as well, are feeling stuck right now. Even the ones that are doing the work, showing up online, launching offers, and trying to grow. Because here's what I'm seeing all the time that's making even those people struggle. Unclear messaging, for starters. If you don't know exactly who you're speaking to at such a deep level, what their actual problem is and why your offer solves it, your content will never convert consistently, even if you're posting all of the time. So I know I just said it's important to post all the time, but it's about posting quality and it's about posting intentionally. Knowing, what you're doing is so, so important, not just doing it. Because anyone can say to ChatGPT, hey, write 5 posts for this target audience, copy paste, slap it up with a quote. Like anyone can actually do that, but that doesn't move the needle anymore. You've actually got to put in a lot more effort and depth. And if you're feeling frustrated by that rather than, feeling excited to have that kind of clarity, then honestly, maybe business is not for you because, you don't grow a business by half-assing it. You put in effort, you put in time, you put in the reps, right? And your alternative is to work in a 9-to-5 job where you have to work 8 hours a day doing something that you don't love. So it's okay to get a little bit uncomfortable having to put in effort for a 10-second reel or a 60-minute video. Do you know what I mean? I mean a 60-second video, like it's actually not that hard. But if you tell yourself it is, then go choose the other alternative, which is to work 8+ hours doing something you don't love and then see which one's really hard. Because I tell you what, there's nothing I could think of that is worse than having to actually set an alarm, rush to get ready in the morning, drive, in traffic to a place I don't want to go to, do things I don't want to do, and deal with people I don't want to deal with. I couldn't think of anything worse. And I'm not saying all 9-to-5s are like that. I'm not against 9-to-5s for some people. Someone's got to do it, but I would not want to do that. And so would I be willing to put in more effort than maybe I have in the past to get my content to convert from the comfort of my motherfucking couch in my home? Yes, I think I'm willing to do that, right? So it's like, pick your battles here. And I just wanted to make that really clear because I think so many are like, oh, so much effort. Oh, I have to create content. Oh, I have to get ready. I have to film content. It's like, yeah, that's kind of your job. That's what happens when you're growing an online coaching business. It bottles me, that's not the right word. It baffles me is what I'm trying to say. When I see online service providers or coaches complaining about having to put in effort with online content, and it's like, it's literally the job you chose. Like, you don't have to do it. You can go to the 9-to-5. You can go do something that doesn't involve social media. Like, go do that then, right? But then you probably have a reason why you don't want to do that as well. And so it's like, choose your hard. Both are going to have hard parts about it. If it was really that easy, don't you think everyone would be succeeding and thriving? But the reality is it's actually a very, very small percentage that is both succeeding and feeling good while doing so. It's a very small percentage. And guess what? All of those people, that small percentage, worked incredibly hard and truthfully hustled to get there. They might have the spaciousness and the clear calendar, now. Like, I have a clear calendar all this week. I think I have like 2 or 3 calls. But you best believe for the first 3 to 4 years, I was like hustling. And I still work all day, every day. But I love it. And I've got spaciousness now, And I worked really hard to get there. And so has every coach that you look up to, or that has the big following or the big amounts of clients, or, they're spreading their impact or they're making a lot of money. They worked really hard to get there. And to say otherwise is honestly kind of disrespectful to those people. And it's just untrue, right? No matter what they say, no one's going to sit there and say, yeah, look, I barely put in effort and I'm just super successful. No, they're all going to tell you they worked really hard, because they did. They overcame hard things. They moved through the trenches. They evolved. They learned. They invested. They kept investing, even when they were screwed over, even when they were let down, even when it didn't work, even when it didn't align with them. They didn't give up. And that is the whole difference. The whole difference. Okay? So you've really got to pick your battles there. Okay? You got to have that clear messaging. You've got to be leaning in way more. So that's the first thing, it's like, even if you're posting heaps, if it's unclear and it's not high quality, it's not going to land. The second thing is not having a consistent client attraction system. So if you're relying on motivation, which is designed to come and go, rather than strategy, you're going to have some problems. If some weeks you're visible and other weeks you're not, and it shows, it's probably because that's how you're operating your business from. Motivation rather than strategy. Like I told you in the beginning of this episode, I went through, a hard few, weeks, and I still felt good in that process at the same time, because I was able to hold duality. It's not like I shut up shop and I just didn't show up online for those 3 or 4 weeks. Like, no, I kept leaning in. It's not like I didn't, go to the gym or work on my body or do my routines. No, I actually doubled down on them, And so you've got to be consistent, even if you didn't get many likes or any likes on your last post. Like, I see so many coaches complain because they didn't get many views on that one reel that they probably didn't put in that much effort to, or even if they did, there's that instant gratification approach. There's that, this isn't working, I'm not doing it. Oh, I've been trying for 2 weeks, I didn't get results. Oh, I give up, or what's wrong, or this whole process doesn't work. No, love, it's just been 2 weeks. It's just been 2 months. It's not a long time, okay? You've actually got to have a consistent client attraction system, and you've really got to be leaning in even when it's not working. I am only here today with the brand that I have, the audience that I have, the clients that I have, the impact that I have, the income that I have, because I was going live every day, or not every day, but maybe like 3 times a week in the beginning of my business, and I was talking on that live even when 0 people were watching me. And because I was willing to keep showing up even when no one was watching me, I now have people that are watching me. But if I had given up because I'm like, oh, no one watched me, that means that strategy's out the door. That didn't work. That coach sucks. Goodbye, not doing that. I would not be here doing what I'm doing today. I would be in that shitty 9-to-5 job. Or I'd be back working those 5 casual jobs that I actually didn't hate, but it just certainly wouldn't create the lifestyle that I've got today, right? So it's so important that you're consistent and you're really leaning into this experience, even in the moments where there's low engagement. I actually don't get that much engagement or traction on my content, but because I don't have all this mind drama about it, and because I'm not just doing one thing like posting content, I'm actually doing a variety of different things that align. I have systems and I have team and support, which I worked hard to create and I'm willing to invest in as well. That's why I'm getting results, despite not always getting amazing traction or amazing show up, okay? And so it's important that you are willing to do the same, because the truth is that simply posting content is no longer a client attraction system. It can be if you go viral and if you do an amazing job at, but again, you have to be willing to go above average, and above and beyond, and you have to be willing to lean in for quite a long period of time often before that really kicks off. But for most people, that's no longer a strategy on its own. You no longer get away with just posting even 5 times a week and expecting clients to roll in. There are other layers that go so much deeper than that needs to be a part of your client attraction system to really be seen and heard and understood online. Okay? And that's what I really teach my clients. I don't just teach them how to create content. I teach them way more things that is sustainable, but it's actually going to get them seen faster, right? Rather than just relying on one thing that is also slightly out of your control about whether Meta decides to push that post out or not. And obviously the better your post is, the more likely it will be pushed out. But again, you're facing a lot of quote unquote competition. So it's not always as simple as that. Okay. The next thing that, could be why you're feeling stuck despite showing up a lot online is if you've got misaligned offers. So if you're trying to sell high ticket offers to cold leads or a small amount of leads, or you're continuously lowering your prices thinking that that's what's going to work, instead of learning how to properly package, price, and pitch your service from a variety of different angles and ways, you're going to really struggle, okay? It's not about having 15 offers. It's actually about having one offer, but it being, created and packaged correctly and priced accordingly, and you're actually selling it and making offers on a consistent basis. And it doesn't always have to be in every post, hey, come buy my stuff. You could be sharing client testimonials on your Instagram stories and then have an offer off the back of that. You could be adding a real big piece of value and say, if you want support with that, that's what I teach in my program. You could be selling in a different way, but doing it every single day. You could be doing it in the DMs. You could be doing it via Loom videos. You could be doing it on your sales page that you send out to people. You could be doing it off the back of your evergreen or live event. You want to be selling all of the time in lots of different ways, but it has to be done intentionally. And your offer has to be a genuine no-brainer, not just lots of offers or making decisions that aren't from the root cause. So many people think, oh, no one's buying my offer, that means my price is too high. But actually sometimes lowering your price isn't the problem, and that's actually causing more of a problem. Because now people just really don't see the value in it. They're like, what's wrong with it that it's so cheap? How could that possibly generate that kind of an outcome that the program promises? So it's not always just about lowering your prices. And even if that does work, temporarily, now you have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard to get the clients and the income that you want because you've lowered your pricing that much, right? So if you want to scale and you're wondering why you're not making the same income that you were before, why your income's plateaued and it's not growing, this could be a big reason why, or one of the many reasons why. And the last thing that I'm going to share here when it comes to why you could be showing up and doing all the things every day, but you're not growing, is because of fear of evolving. This is a really big one. You know that something feels off, but you're afraid to burn down what you've built, so you just keep repeating what you used to work, even though it's not working anymore. And I get it, because I was actually the same. But the truth is that those that don't adapt fall behind. At first, I felt really frustrated that what was once working and all the effort I'd put into creating and learning and implementing that just wasn't working the same. And I honestly made it mean something about me. I made it mean something about my team. I made it mean something about the strategy. I made it mean something about my coach. I was like, this isn't working. And I was really frustrated. And then I realized, it doesn't have to mean something's wrong just because it's not working. It just means that I need to adapt, and that's actually very normal. So it's not wrong, it's normal. And you have to be okay with iterating and testing things, honestly, constantly. Nothing's ever just going to be done and you never have to change anything again, right? It's a building, testing, iterating experience. Think about when the global pandemic hit, when COVID hit. The companies that didn't adapt no longer exist today. But companies like Zoom that leveraged and capitalized on an evolving and changing situation, they're now, booming more than ever before because they were willing to adapt, and those that didn't fell behind. And there's plenty of examples and situations or, things I could share with you about big companies that were presented with opportunities to adapt and they didn't because of fear of doing so, and now those companies don't exist. I remember, I don't know the full details of this. I should have done my research before even sharing this, but I remember when Netflix was coming about, you know, people said that that's not going to work and that they were crazy. And, you know, don't quote me on this, but why do I feel like I read a story somewhere that, you know, the DVD industry or company or something like that, you know, had the opportunity, like I think like Netflix or something like that pitched to them, and you know, they didn't think it would work, and now, you know, no one buys DVDs, or it's something like that. You know, there's lots of examples of similar things like that. Or like even with Airbnb, people said no one's ever going to stay in a stranger's house. No one's ever going to go in a stranger's car. And now people do that, right? And so it's like you've got to be willing to adapt. And when something's no longer working the way that it once was, you have to really look at that. And instead of judge yourself or others or make it wrong, instead look at like, okay, if I want to keep going, what's that going to look like to do? Okay? So it's a lifelong journey. It's a continuous journey. And when I really acknowledged that again, I was like, okay, there's actually not something wrong here. This is just, of course, it's outdated. So we've been improving our nurture email sequence. We've been improving our event funnel. We've been improving our evergreen funnel. We're tweaking the order of the way we're doing things. We're tweaking our ads. You know, we're tweaking a lot of things right now to get it to work better, and that's, you know, slowly and surely happening because of the mindset of being willing to adapt instead of like, oh, why isn't this working? This isn't fair, poor me, victim, you know? So just a friendly reminder, you're not lazy, you're not doing it all wrong. It might be one or two little things actually that has a big ripple effect that's causing a bottleneck in your business. So even though it might feel like everything's going wrong, and maybe that genuinely is the case, it's just your invitation to do something different. You're just using an old playbook in a new game, okay? So it's time to upgrade your strategy, not to necessarily work harder. For some of you in the really early stages, it probably is about working harder. It probably is about adjusting your expectations and being willing to show up in the beginning when no one's watching, or you've been in business for a few months, which realistically is just not a long period of time. Some companies hustle for literally 3, 5, 10 years before they truly make any money. And when you look at some of the top successful entrepreneurs out there on the planet today, that's what they'll say. It wasn't an overnight success. It was like a decade-long overnight success, and that's what got them there. And tears and heartbreak and letdown and failure upon failure. Some of them have been in 3, 4, 5, 10 different businesses before they got one to work. So just calm down with that. You've posted a few pieces of content and it hasn't performed very well. It's quite normal that things don't just take off overnight. That did used to happen a little bit for some people in the online space 5, 10 years ago, but now things are different. So what's working now? We've looked at the problems, we've looked at the pain. What is working now? Here's what I'm seeing consistently work for myself and for my clients who are growing to 5, 10, 20, 30, and even 50K months without the constant overwhelm and setbacks. Crystal clear messaging. I've already spoken about this, so I won't go too deep here. Not just I help coaches sign clients, but messaging that actually makes your dream client stop and think, wow, she's talking exactly to me right now. Strategic nurturing, whether that's having a podcast, doing live videos, or weekly emails, you need a way to educate, build trust, create connection, and do so consistently, right? And long form content and video content is very, very powerful because it's clear that AI, didn't do that. AI might have been a piece of the puzzle in doing it, but right now you can hear it's me talking. I'm riffing with you. I'm being present with you, and that builds trust more than a 5-second reel sharing 5 tips. Do you know what I mean? And so it's this long form content. It's a video content that's truly going to nurture people at a deep level. Okay. So long form content and conversations is essential, having real conversations. I had a client that joined my program last week and she just kept saying, I can't believe you responded to me. I can't believe that, you answered my message on social media. I'm like, wow, how sad is that people can't even expect a reply right now? I'm like, of course I responded to you. You messaged me, of course I responded to you. I'm here to build relationships with people. She was so obsessed with the fact that I responded to her. And I'm like, that's so sad that that's such a big deal. It should be bare freaking minimum, guys. And yeah, so building that trust, going the extra mile, going above and beyond is what is working right now. Having a simple and scalable funnel, not 14 different lead magnets and 5 different paid offers, just one clear path that takes someone from a stranger to a buyer and done so really, really well. The other thing that's working right now is personalized sales processes. Sales calls still work, DMs still work, but only when done with intention, follow-up, and personalization. Those 3 pieces are so important to actually get the process to work, okay? And lastly, emotional leadership and energetic alignment. Your audience is watching how you're moving right now. They're watching how you're showing up right now. The more boldly and clearly you lead, the more they are going to trust you. If you lean out right now because things aren't going exactly the way you want with your unhealthy expectations, that's exactly how you're going to stay stuck. Now is the time to lean in and adapt to the new way and make those little and big tweaks where necessary. Now, I know that this episode might sound like a lot. I don't want you to feel like you're doing everything wrong, because most of you are probably not doing everything wrong. You're just probably doing a few little things that are a little bit outdated, or things could be done slightly better that has a huge ripple effect. So it's not about changing everything overnight. It's about baby, consistent tweaks. And that is how I'm navigating this without the overwhelm, without the burnout, and without wanting to throw in the towel. Because I'm not looking at it as like, oh no, I have to change 100 things. I'm looking at it as I have to change one little small thing at a time, okay? So I'm asking myself, where am I trying to grow using an outdated system? And what would it look like to evolve and enjoy the experience while doing so? Because I don't want to make it wrong. I want to make it right. That mindset's what's going to support me. Now, if this episode hit home for you and you're realizing that you need to upgrade a few things here or there, whether that's your strategy, your messaging, or your sales process, doing it alone is a really slow, scary, and potentially harmful way to do it when it comes to growing your business, especially if you just don't know what's truly working right now at a deep level. It's really hard to see our own blind spots and bottlenecks, and it's really hard to see what's working and what's not in our business if we don't have someone looking at the data, looking at the big picture, and looking at the nitty-gritty with you, right? It's important to have a second brain in your business. That's why I have multiple coaches and I have a team of people working together to build this business up. I can't do it alone, and I also wouldn't enjoy doing it alone either. And so if you're realizing, okay, there's a few things I need to change here, or this is making sense why I've been stuck, don't guess your way through it, okay? That is what I'm not doing right now. I'm not guessing. I'm speaking to experts. I'm using evidence. I'm using data, and I'm tweaking accordingly from there with support every step of the way. And if you're craving that and you don't currently have that, I would love to support you inside my mastermind, Scale School. That is where I help established coaches scale to consistent 30K months using simple systems, sustainable strategy, and seamless sales without hustling constantly and burning yourself out. Because right now, I'm sharing with my clients at a deep level what needs to be changed so that they can continue to do so without having to guess or figure that out on their own. I'm sharing with them what's working for me and what's not, and what I'm changing in real time so that they can do the same. So if you would like to learn more about Scale School, learn more about working with me and seeing if that's the right fit, I would love to support you, and I respond to every single DM I receive. So send me a direct message on Instagram. I'm at Sophia Rose Bernardi. I'll leave that linked in the show notes with the word scale, and let's talk about what support might look like for you right now, and let's get clear on your bottleneck and how you can actually move through this to scale, because I would love to support you, and I really want to see you get out of this phase that you've potentially been in for months or years. It doesn't need to be that way, but you do need to do something different, and not just random things different, but the right things different. And that's going to start by having support. So send me a DM with the word scale at Sophia Rose Bernardi. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you loved this episode. Feel free to take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me with your biggest takeaway, and I will share that as well and send you a big thank you in the DMs. So thank you so much, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to hit subscribe. It means the world to me, and I promise to keep bringing you top tier coaching insights every single week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.